Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with a couple of nerds.
I'm Scott Garibay.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And what we want to do today is a little bit of D&D pondering. What would it look like, and how soon would a 6th edition Dungeons & Dragons come?
Yeah, so Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, my questions on it is, when will it come? What would you put into it that's new, and what would you take out? But before we talk about it, let's go back to the Nerdarchy newsletter. Definitely consider signing up for the Nerdarchy newsletter. Really great content in there to keep your game focused and improving at all times. You get essentially the boiled down wisdom of these two. Great stuff. And you get to learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Very cool.
So, okay, so I know when I said that, some of you guys out there just threw up in your mouth a little bit.
Well, actually, also, I did a little bit of work. So one of the things I want to do to talk about to premise this is, so we are incredibly blessed. Gary Gygax brought us the first Dungeons & Dragons game in 1973. We're now in 2016, which means the game has been out for 43 years, right?
And we've had about
5 editions.
We've 5, or would you call it 6?
I hear you. Yeah, so we're in what most people would call 5e. If you keep it simple, that means each version has lasted 8 to 9 years, right? So just putting that out to kind of, yeah.
4th edition was the shortest run of the lot, wasn't it?
I believe it was. It was
Yes.
about four years.
And 2nd edition was the longest.
Good. What do you think?
I think it probably was.
Yeah.
Or, 2nd edition or AD&D.
Right.
Like, because there's two editions that kind of happen.
We said it started in 73, right?
Yes.
2nd edition, was that 78, 79?
Yeah, I think it was early on.
Because I mean that's the year I was born in 78.
Yep.
So like I never played any of the AD&D. I went right to 2nd. And then it wasn't until
late 90s for 3rd, right?
Yeah. And we played 3rd, from moment 1. We didn't, like as soon as we were able to get information on it, we were already, checking it out. We got the early conversion kit, that you could convert your characters from 2nd into 3rd, and I'm certain Dave hasn't already jumped on about all the complaining that I did about switching
from
over.
2nd to 3rd. That was the most highly marketed and most strategic moving of one edition to the next in the history of Dungeons & Dragons. Because they did like a 12-month run-up in Dragon Magazine to 3rd edition, like revealing like all the things that they were going to do. Yeah. And that's why I was so easily sold, because they basically previewed everything, and oh my god, like you're going to have all these character options you never had and these cool things they're doing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, all right, so let's look at 6th. So 5th edition.
Well, let's do when first. So for 6th edition, when do you think 6th edition will come out, with 5th edition having come out in, was it 2013 or 2014?
We're in year 2, right?
2014. So let's call it 2014. So with 5th edition launching in 2014, 8 years.
July. It literally launched, like you could download the free stuff like July 1st, because I believe it was like the 4th of July weekend when we started actually covering 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons.
That's true. All right, so I'm gonna say if a 6th edition is on there, 2025, I'll easily say that it's got a solid 10-year run. I think that there is nothing but solid content, and we could easily see another 8 or 9 years out of it. And I think that's my earliest prediction. Certainly won't happen before that.
So one, by the numbers, the next time we should get an edition would be 2022, right? I say it's going to come in 2020, which is 6 years. And the reason why is it has nothing to do with Wizards of the Coast or with the role-playing game itself. It's just that life overall is accelerating, and I think 6 years is a long time for people. Also, I'm a huge comic book fan, and comic books have just gone into this, like, comic books, it is extremely rare to see a comic book series run even into the 20s anymore. There is a ongoing joke in several comics where comic books will have a #1 edition multiple times per year. There was a comic book that said that Squirrel Girl just said, "Oh, it's only our second #1 this year," right? And so I think they'll get 6 years. I think they built this thing.
I just love the fact that you're reading a comic book called Squirrel Girl.
Indeed. Squirrel Girl, if you're not on it, read it. It's fantastic. It's actually a straight Marvel comic, which is really, it's not in some weird indie press. It's actually a Marvel comic, which I think is really fascinating.
Squirrel Girl is an interesting character.
Yeah, indeed.
I'll just leave it at that. All right, so Dave, how about you? When do you prick? We got a 25, we got a 22.
I'm going to say
2020.
5th edition. Okay. 5th edition was the edition built to last, so 10 years. I look at the way everything's compartmentalized in this edition. It's real easy for them to add things or take things away as they want to, or even just completely swap things out. So I think they're going to try and stay in this one as long as they can, especially if they keep the current creative team on there. They're still licking their wounds from 4th. Yeah. 4th was the Great Divider in D&D and Pathfinder. So I don't think I think they're afraid of a repeat of that, and they're not going to want to trade in the success that they've had with 5th edition. They're going to fear consumer lashback. You can even see it in the way they're producing products now.
Yeah,
they're very careful on what they put out and how they put it out. I mean, they put out 3-4 adventures before we even got a supplement book.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
so what's your? You got to give us a
2022, 2025. Do you think it'll get 10 years like he's saying, or 6 years like I'm saying?
I'm saying 10 years.
10 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I believe in 10 years.
All right, so you say 2024 as a minimum.
Yeah. So here's my next question: what do you guys want in that is new, that is not in the game? So for 6th edition, what would you like to see new to the game? And your answer can be nothing. If you think it's perfect, then they shouldn't add anything, and it's just a
Nothing's
reskin.
Perfect. Nothing's perfect.
I hear you. But
I've always been a big proponent of racial choices, so I would love to see, as they've done with some of the other stuff. Let's give us something completely new. Make up something that's gonna wow people, and say, you know what? All right, these things weren't around before. In the end of 3rd, beginning of 4th, we started to see the Dragonborn. In Eberron, you got something as awesome as the Warforged. There's all these new racial choices, and I think in order to encourage people and to keep them still entertained, you give them one new race, and now they can mix it with all the backgrounds and classes and things that are already out there. So I think new races are almost a must. Yes, I mean, with 5th edition, they didn't really bring anything completely new to the player's handbook.
They took no risks.
But they didn't take any risks. But you've got Tiefling as a standard race. You got Dragonborn as a standard race, and for anyone who didn't play 4th, like, that wasn't something that was there. So I mean, it is a tried and true. 3rd and 4th did show those, but being in the core handbook, is something to say. But I think if you want to wow them, come up with something dazzling and put it in the PHP.
That's a really cool idea. So for me, for new, one of the things I thought was one of the biggest successes of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition was the narrative combat and the grid combat. They did it flawlessly. I think they actually delivered on a big promise, which is, you guys who want to play with the grid, with your minis and 5-foot steps and movement that is 30, is 6 squares, 30 feet of movement as a standard, you can play that flawlessly. And now, for the first time ever, you can play narrative combat flawlessly. You can go through great, very quick, very combats that you can see what's happening, and I think they really did a great job with that. What I would like to see is the same thing, where you can play the game as it stands with all the normal dice. I want new dice, and I want an explosion of dice options. So I want character dice, I want class dice, race dice, spell dice, weapon dice, and I want the game to be fully playable with the standard set of dice as it is, but for the players who want to, they can bring in these additional dice, and the dice gives them new options from there. I would really like to see new dice options, custom dice options. And the reason why I think we may get it is when we're talking right now, 6 to 8 to 10 years out, I think we're going to see actual physical printer. There's going to be a lot more these 3D printers out there, which means that making custom dice will not be nearly as expensive, nearly as difficult, and that they'll have a lot of options from the people who make those, and they can make them cheap, and they can get them out there. I'd really love to see the game expand that way.
Right, so I got another point to put in there as far as something new. We've got a handful of other tabletop role-playing games out there that, you know, D&D kind of has always been the big brother. They're the ones that are out there, but there are a plethora of other choices, and some of these other games have actually adopted another style that many DMs have brought into D&D, but it's never really been addressed. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing in any of the D&D books that ever talk about player agency.
Oh, that's true.
No, it doesn't.
So
never even mentioned.
I think that is going to be something that will drastically change the game.
Yep.
To even have guidelines for player agency either in the player's handbook or the DM.
And maybe it's the evolution of the inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, they basically go to hero points like Mutants and Masterminds. I see 6th edition as being a bolt-on system like powers and options from 2nd edition. They're going to be like, Rick, how can we make a new edition without making a new edition and, you know, without driving away our fan base? I see basically this system that you can bolt right to your existing 5th edition system that can enhance it and alter it, maybe even the ways that you both have mentioned. But you know, everything is interchangeable, so people can take what they want and leave what they don't, and it'll be a way for them to try and bridge the gap and not have another rift appear.
Yeah,
that's definitely an interesting way to look at it, Dave.
The other thing is, one thing I would love to see new is I would love to see them leverage something that they're doing now that they've never done before. They are owning their name, so they are Dungeons and Dragons. They are the preeminent role-playing game in the tabletop role-playing game world. They're iconic, right? And one of the things they're doing is they were able to go out and say, "Hey, Green Ronin, I know you do your own thing, but would you like to take the honor of making an adventure for me?" And I think the Green Ronin groups and all these other groups just squeed and like, "Of course we would," you know. And so I'm hoping that they will leverage that. And what I would love to see on 6th edition is, here's your 6th edition rules right on day one, and here's Dark Sun, here's Ravenloft, here's Greyhawk, and these can all be there on day one because we didn't have to build them. We leveraged our relationship with these other companies.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, no offense, Scott, I don't think that will ever happen.
Why not?
Historically, whenever they've released a new edition, you know, they consider, okay, whatever you want to consider your prime material plane, here's the books.
Oh,
and,
go play
and,
it.
And they test the waters out. They see, okay, well, all right, you're playing in Greyhawk, you're playing in Faerun, because that's usually where things have gone. You know, some of the newer books really say, okay, well, here's all the deities for all the different worlds. Like, you know, 5th has got the whole section in the back. But they don't want to spoil things or do any extra work without seeing success first.
It's interesting.
So
okay.
If they say, all right, well, here's this new edition, and we spent all this money, and this other company did this, and this other company did that, well, now the players who are like, well, I want it all, I can't afford it all, never mind, I'm going to stick to what I'm already doing. Whereas if you spread it out, and typically, you know, third, fourth, and fifth had that spread out of even the core books. Like, you couldn't even go and say, all right, well, it's day one, I'm going to go pick up all 3 books, here's $150. You couldn't do it. It was literally a 3 to 4 month gap.
You're 100% right, yeah. Now, again, you know, like, I think we'll all have robot brains 6 years to 10 years from now. I think I understand where you're coming from, but I feel the world
is going to change.
Yeah, it's going to change to the point where, and they're going to try to match it. But I understand what you're saying.
I can't predict what the world is going to do. You know, I look at the progression of the hobby itself. So I'm going to look at that. There's going to be staples that people like, and there's things that are like, okay, well, this is something that is a thing, and it's getting bigger. Like the player agency, I think that's getting bigger, and I think by the time the next edition comes around, D&D will have to acknowledge it in some way, shape, or form. And the only way they're going to do that is to say, all right, here's how you can use it in your games.
Yeah. Scott, are you familiar with the different like celebrity games that kind of go on?
Yeah, Critical Role, some of those other ones out there. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, someone just put in the comments. It was either in a comment, someone messaged me, an email. I don't know. I get so much information from you guys. It comes from all over the place,
and we're so thankful for it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they were talking about a game that's either it's been going on a little while or it's rather new, and I know it's all third-party publishers. Like the owners of those companies are highly involved.
Yeah.
Playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Holy cows.
Chris Paramus, I know, is definitely one of them.
Oh my goodness, he's Green Ronin, right?
Green Ronin. Someone from Kobold Press, and there was other ones, and these are just the ones that I remember off the top of my head. But that goes to say, like what you were saying, like everyone knows. Everyone knows, like, the legacy company is Dungeons, or brand is Dungeons and Dragons.
And it's so sad, too, because Pathfinder has worked so hard, and I was thankful for their games. I still own a core Pathfinder rulebook, and there are some precious... I had every Pathfinder book. I had a stack this high. I'm down to here, because I sold off a lot, because I'm like, when am I ever going to play these? But I didn't get rid of the core books, and there's books that are precious to me from Pathfinder. They've worked so hard, and if you if you type into Google Pathfinder, you're going to get an SUV truck. Whereas if you Google Dungeons and Dragons, or if you drop the name of Dungeons and Dragons at a Muggle party, at a dinner party, right?
I love the fact that you refer to non-gamers as Muggles.
Yeah. If you drop the name of Dungeons and Dragons at a dinner party, half the people at that table will know, if not all the people at the table will know what you're saying. If you say Pathfinder,
at least in the abstract, they're like, oh, Nissan.
Any dinner party I go to, if 90% of the people there don't know what it is, there's a problem.
I've lost my appetite.
Yeah, but that's a great point as far as these other games, and also I'm excited to go now and see Green Ronin guys playing 5th edition.
Yeah, it was just brought up to me yesterday, and it's definitely something I want to check out.
Yeah, me too.
But with that in mind, 6th edition, what do you guys think? Is there going to be another one? There always is. How many of you are really pissed off at Nerdarchy for even mentioning a 6th edition right now?
But you gotta put your thoughts about what you think, when, and what down below.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the comments. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can head over to nerdarchy.com and hang out with us on the forum.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.